Hi guys, and welcome to Mom Babes, where every mom is a babe. And if you're like, Christina, I don't feel like a babe, I have morning breath and it's noon, then this channel is especially for you. I make videos for moms who don't have it all together and who are creatives. And if you're like, I'm not a creative, that's a lie, because raising a live human being is the most creative thing that there is. Be sure to subscribe and ding the bell to get notified each time I release a video so you will never have to miss one. Today we are learning how to make the entire baby's first birthday cake smash outfit. So this whole thing started when, with my first baby, I saw these adorable pictures on Pinterest of a little boy in suspenders and a bow tie and a diaper cover and a hat, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it matched the theme I wanted to do. I went on Etsy to purchase it and was like, oh my gosh, this is very expensive. Which, I mean, no shade on Etsy people, I get it. They have to like buy the materials and shipping and whatever. But I was like, that's just more than I was willing to pay. But I was like, okay, well, I can get the suspenders and the bow tie somewhere else for cheaper. And so I just ordered the hat and the diaper cover, which after shipping was like $40, which at the time I was still like, that's a little extravagant, but I really, really love it, so I'm gonna do it. Second baby comes around and I'm like, another little boy, first birthday party. I wanna make this adorable smash outfit. So then I go onto Etsy and I'm like, oh my gosh, the price has increased so much. It was like $75. And I was just like, that's too much. So I had this idea of, why don't I just make my own? And at first I was like, I don't know if I have that much skill, but then I researched it a little bit and it turns out that it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. So now I am going to teach you how to make your birthday cake smash outfit on a budget. And the best part is you can use whatever fabric you want. I will say you do have to kind of know your way around a sewing machine to make the bow tie and the diaper cover. But for the hat, you don't even use a sewing machine. So depending on your comfortability, you can make various parts of the outfit and always outsource whatever else you aren't able to make. And a lot of the materials I did already have, like a sewing machine and an iron and an ironing board and glue gun, stapler, all those kinds of things. So if you aren't supplied with like crafty things, then this may be like slightly more expensive, but to just get elastic, Velcro, yarn, a pattern, was $30 after tax, and that was much better than $75. So I am gonna list a bunch of materials for you, like for the whole project, and then it is gonna get a little repetitive throughout the video because I'm gonna list the materials for each section over again. Hopefully that is helpful and not distracting. I do create chapters in the video so you can skim to the parts that you're looking for to make it easier to find the next step. Then you can pick it up whenever you want to, as you probably will not make all 3 pieces in one sitting. And if you do, please comment below so I can know who you are. If you only want to make certain parts of the outfit, I did include links to videos below where I kind of break them apart, like just the bow tie, just the hat, just the diaper cover. I don't know how to make suspenders, so that you will have to get off the internet or at the store somewhere. You are the most adventurous, most capable. Let's dive in. And pick the pattern that you want to use for your baby diaper cover. You're gonna need elastic 1/4 inch by 45 centimeters, so about 2 to 3 yards of that, scissors, cardboard or paper stock for your pattern, and a sewing machine, obviously matching thread. This is the most complicated part. Don't let it overwhelm you, but we are going to make our own pattern, easier than it looks. So the top you'll see is 30 centimeters by 19.5, 14.5 on the bottom, 4 on the right side, and then the little casings is 1.5 centimeters and then 1 centimeter. You can always pause this and use the measurements to trace your own design, and kind of similar pattern to the bottom. I'll show you how to make a rudimentary one too. 25 centimeters by 19.5 on the right, 12 and then 14 over the top, 4.5 on the left, 1.5, and then that 1 inch for the leg casing that is gonna go on this side. So if you wanted to do something that is a little more rudimentary, you would just go ahead and measure out the distance on the bottom, which is going to be 25 centimeters and 19.5 on the top. And that's going to give you a rough rectangle of the pattern that you are going to need. Again, that's 25 by 19, and then 14 over on the top. And then it's gonna create a rectangle. And the only thing that you do wanna make sure that you leave is that 1 inch centimeter rough loop on the left where you are going to do the leg casing. Notice that it does come out a little bit on the left and a little bit on the top. But same for the back, you're gonna do 30 centimeters by the same 19.5, come over about 14 and about 4 on the left, and then just make sure you extend out that 1 centimeter along that for the back like you do along the front. If you don't want to do perfect measurements and pause the screen, that's a rudimentary way. Once you have your pattern, you're going to go ahead and trace it. You will cut out your pattern. And as you can see, we have the front here, and you'll see the 1 centimeter leg casings on either side kind of sticking out. And as you cut it along the fold, you'll do the same thing with the back. So the bottom of the pattern is going to be along the fold right here. And go ahead and trace. Same thing, 30 centimeters by 19 centimeters if you wanted to do the rough estimation. And then you'll go 14 centimeters over, leaving that 1 centimeter casing. And once you have both of them cut out, you can kind of get an idea of what it will look like. So the first thing that we are going to do is put the right sides together, wrong sides facing out, and stitch along the crotch on the bottom. So you'll see that I sew along the leg casing. I do a little diagonal right there, and then I sew along the crotch. You're gonna have a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then I sew along the other leg casing. I went ahead and ironed the seam down, so you can see that it's ironed flat. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to iron with the right side still facing together, iron a 1 centimeter fold on all of the leg casings, which will look something like this. Ta-da! Do another centimeter fold, so measure 1 more centimeter, and fold a second time. So you should have 2 folds, 1 centimeter and another centimeter that's ironed, which looks like this. And you can see there is 1 fold and 2 folds. And you're gonna go ahead and do that to all 4 of the leg casings, which will look something like this. Now we're gonna put the right sides back together and sew along the sides right here. So go ahead and stitch along the side, again 3/8 inch seam allowance, and you're gonna sew along the leg casing at the bottom as well. And you are gonna go ahead and do that for both sides. So as you can see, we have our stitch going there and stitch coming here, again including that leg casing all the way up. Now we are going to go ahead and pin the leg casing. So you're gonna fold it twice. So you wanna make sure that both folds are included, and you wanna make sure that it is big enough to include the elastic that we're going to be threading through. So you don't want it to be too small. So you wanna leave a good amount of space there, and go ahead and pin along the entire leg casing. Again, fold it once, fold it twice, make sure both folds are included. I like to start at the crotch so that my seams are, if they do look a little messy, they are in the crotch where no one can see them. So as I'm making my way around, I am going to leave an opening here. So you don't want to sew it all the way because we do need to thread the elastic in. So once you get to a certain point, just stop and go ahead and leave that opening so that you can come back and put the elastic in later. And then go ahead and stitch the other side. Same thing, I like to start along the crotch so that my extra stitches aren't as noticeable. And I'm gonna stop and leave an extra inch or so where I can put in the elastic and leave that portion unsewed. So we're gonna look something like this. So now they're sewn, let's go ahead and find the little holes where we are going to insert our elastic. You're gonna take your elastic, and the first piece you're gonna cut is 13 inches long. And once you have the first piece, you are gonna make sure you have a second piece. Now we're gonna take a safety pin and thread it through the end of the elastic. This part is the most tedious. You're gonna push the safety pin through, which is why you wanna make sure that you have enough space, that you left enough space to push it through. So you kind of just bunch and pull the head of the safety pin through. It is a little tedious. Go ahead and throw on some Netflix and chill while you do this. Once you get it all the way through at the end, you're going to sew your elastic together. So you're gonna wanna put it over top and make sure that there are no twists in the elastic. You can do a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine, or you can cheat like I did for one of them and go ahead and use a needle and thread and go through that way. You do wanna make sure that it is secure for using the needle and thread. Once that's done, you'll go ahead and push the elastic back in, spread out the elastic, distribute it, and we are gonna seal up that opening where we put the elastic in. So once you have sewed both of them, inserted the elastic and sewed up the thing, you'll do one side as well as the other. You can kind of see what it's gonna look like, and we're almost done. The next step is to iron the waistband. So you're gonna do the same thing, 1 centimeter, fold and iron, and then fold it again a second time and iron again. So you will have 2 folds, 1 centimeter each, and we'll repeat the same process for the waistband where we pin. Once we folded it, once it's ironed and folded twice, go ahead and pin it all the way around. And we are going to sew it. Again, I like to start along the side seam so that my extra stitches aren't as obvious, and leave about 1 inch or so for the elastic to go through on the top. Now we are going to find our opening and take the elastic. This time we are going to measure a piece that is 19 centimeters long and chop chop. Take your safety pin, poke it through the end of the elastic, and like before, our favorite part, we are gonna thread it through the entryway that we made. So same thing, throw on some Netflix and chill and just bunch and thread and bunch and thread and work the safety pin through the top. Once it comes through again, you are going to overlap it and make sure there are no twists in the elastic. And you can go ahead and sew it on the sewing machine with that zigzag stitch. Or you can go to town like I did and do the needle and thread on this one. I got a little aggressive with this final stitch, as you can see, but the cool thing about it is that no one can see the elastic. So you can make it as ugly and ridiculous as you want, and it doesn't really matter. You'll see. So as you can see, I am just going crazy here and back and forth, and look at how ridiculous and ugly this stitch is. I don't even think there's a name for this stitch, but guess what? That sucker is going nowhere, like ever, and nobody's gonna be able to see it, so it works just fine. Obviously, if you can do it on the sewing machine, that's gonna be a little prettier. You'll distribute the elastic and go ahead and stitch up that final area. And you did it, Mom. Look at this cute diaper cover. It's gonna make your baby's bum look adorable. Super, super cute. Oh my gosh, so fun. And they can wear them and crawl around in them and look way cuter than just a whatever diaper. One thing I do like to do to make it look very nice and clean at the end is go around and just cut off any loose threads that I may have missed from any of my stitches, just so that it looks all pretty and professional. Yeah, you did it. Party, party, party. Woohoo! Go, go. You will need a pattern at least 1/2 yard. Velcro, soft and rough side. I do 5/8 of an inch. Scissors, matching thread and needle, and a sewing machine. You will also need an iron and an ironing board, which are not pictured, along with a chopstick and or a safety pin, so you'll be able to use either one of those. I'll be making 3 different cuts with patterns. The first one is going to be 8 inches on the top by 6 inches on the side. The second will be 3 inches along the top and 2 inches along the side. This one is more up to the measurement of the neck that you'll be making the bow tie for. I did 18 inches on the top just to be safe. You can always trim later, and you do want the 2 inches at least on the side. When you cut them out, they'll look like this. Now we are going to fold them long ways. So you are going to fold both the 8-inch pieces together with the right sides facing each other. We're going to seam along the top and the side. Same thing for this, you're gonna fold it long ways, so along the top and the side. And we will do the same for our long piece as well. Like I said, you do wanna make sure it's folded long ways. The part I'm sewing now I folded was this 6-inch part, so that's what's making the side right here. On your corner, make sure you insert your needle and then pull it through. And this long edge is the 8-inch edge. So you do want to make sure that that is your long edge. And you will keep the end open so that we are able to turn it inside out later on. Now we're going to do the same for our little piece. This one's a little easier to tell, but the long side is going to be how you fold it on the side. And same thing, we are going to leave one side open so that we can turn it inside out later on. Finally, we are going to do our long piece. Originally I did the 18 inches, so we sew it along the small side and all the way down on the seam. We are going to leave the end open on this as well. So now you should have 3 pieces. We're gonna go ahead and flip these guys inside out, which with this bigger one, you can kind of just do on your own and work it through. When you get to the edge, you are gonna need help with the corners. So this is where you'll bring in your chopstick and just kind of make sure you pull those corners in. And we have flipped it inside out. With this little guy, you can try to work it as much as you can with your hands, and then put the chopstick at the end and kind of push it through, and it's gonna pull all the way through. Now this next one is the hardest. This is probably the most tedious part of this whole thing. So there are 2 options here. I'm gonna show you how to do the chopstick one, which is basically just putting it on one side. I like to alternate sides of the chopstick to kind of move the pattern. I'll move it to the other side and kind of push that way. And you want to be gentle and just kind of wiggle it through. It is going to be tight as it's, only 2 inches. The other option is to take a safety pin and connect that to the end. And then when you push the safety pin head through the loop, you will see that it's going to create kind of a point right here. And so you're just going to want to push and feed that point all the way through. I prefer the chopstick method, so that's what I ended up doing, and that seemed the best for me. You just kind of work the end and push it and pull it and drag it through. Go ahead and throw in some Netflix and chill while you get this going, and you will feel so victorious once it is done. So now you can see it's kind of rough, so we're gonna iron them so that they look nice and pretty to work with, like this. So now we're gonna take our large rectangle and we are going to fold it in half to sew the unfinished end to the finished end right along here. So now you can see we have a stitch along this end right here. Now you're going to go ahead and flip it inside out so that the rough edge is going to be on the inside and the outside seam is much prettier. Go ahead and align the seam with the middle back. See, it's right there in the back along the middle. And we are going to create our bow shape. So the first thing you want to do is kind of bunch it in the middle to make a little hill, and then bring the ends together and pinch it in the middle. So this is kind of the style that I like. There are more options, and it'll look different from the other side as well. To go ahead and knot your thread, take your needle, and we're gonna insert it while you're really gripping the middle pretty tightly. Pull it through to get it started, and then we are simply gonna wrap the thread around the bow and wrap and wrap and wrap. You wanna make sure that it is very snug, it's very tight, that structure isn't gonna go anywhere. And once you're satisfied and do a little overkill of wrapping, which is what I did, you're gonna go ahead and thread it through and then tie it off by looping your needle through the open loop. And why not just do another one for safety? There we go. Might look something like mine, which is not perfectly even, but don't worry because your middle piece is gonna cover up a multitude of sins. And based on how you shift it, you can kind of make it a little more even. So if it doesn't come out perfect, if you weren't able to hold it perfectly while you were sewing, don't worry, we're still gonna be able to come back in and make it look like you meant it to be that way. You can also do the other side. If you like the way that this bow looks on this side with the fold going in the middle instead of out, you have options on which way you want the bow to face. Now, we are going to take our long piece and we are going to figure out the measurement for where we want our Velcro to be. So this is where your own measurements might come into play. If you do the full 18 inches on the measurement, you are gonna wanna leave at least 3 to 4 inches, so around 14, which means you're gonna have about 4 inches of Velcro on either side. If you want to shorten it to fit your baby, if it'll be less, then you don't need as many. You may only need 2 instead of 4, or 3 instead of 4 inches of Velcro, as opposed to the full 4 inches. Typically, babies are around 15 inches, which would include room for the Velcro. So actually, my baby's neck was measuring 13 inches, so I did 15 inches and then the 2-inch Velcro. But you can do it either way. Again, we're using the 5/8 inch Velcro. Go ahead and tear that monster open. And then you will cut your respective pieces like this. We are gonna go ahead and fold over this long end here of the neck piece and put our Velcro on. So let's go ahead and pin down this rough edge. And see, we've stitched it here. Now we are gonna sew on top. So this rough Velcro side is kind of like sewing paper, so you wanna go kind of slow to make sure that you can manage it. You can see I'm going super slow to guide it. I'm also trying to get as close to the edge of the Velcro as possible. Put the needle in and turn it, put the foot back down and sew that final edge. And as you can see, I am going just ridiculously slow to make sure that I get a nice clean line. The most important parts is that you make sure that your other Velcro is on the opposing side. You don't want them to be on the same side, you want them to be on opposite sides so that they will connect. So go ahead and sew on your soft side Velcro. Same thing, take your time to make sure you get that nice edge. one side and then flip it to the other side. As you can see here, we have it on one side, and then if you flip it over, your Velcro's on the other side, so that when you put them together, they will actually connect. If you put them on the same side, you're gonna end up with a twist, which will be very uncomfortable. We're gonna take our bow and attach it to the neck piece. Go ahead and pick the side that you want your pretty bow to be on, and put the other side against the neck piece, flip it inside out, knot your thread and take your needle. And I kind of lined it up at the edge here and just barely got a tiny bit of this neck piece fabric and then a tiny bit of the bow to make my first stitch. And then you're gonna go along this last piece, just kind of grabbing just the edge and trying to get the middle of where that bow is as you are threading through. I did some stitches like this where I pulled and kind of cinched it a little so that it would stay nice and snug and not go anywhere. I tend to be kind of an overkiller when it comes to hand sewing things, so you may not need to be as aggressive as I am, but you're gonna wanna stitch right there. Now you can see my bow is totally uneven. It is way smaller on the left side than on the right side. If this also happened to you, don't worry, we're gonna be able to fix it and no one will ever know. So you'll go ahead and wrap your little piece around the middle and kind of adjust it to where it's going to look pretty. Now you do wanna make sure that the rough side is going to be on the underneath, and then the pretty side is gonna be on the outside. So I kind of pulled it and adjusted it to where they both look like they're even, like I did it totally on purpose. Go ahead and flip it over. Like I said, the rough side, you wanna make sure that that is underneath. The pretty side, rough and pretty, I don't know if that's a thing, but that's what I'm calling them. Take your needle and thread after you have knotted your thread, and you are going to just barely grab the edges of the fabric, push your needle through, and you're gonna sew along this seam right here in nice little pretty loops. I'm sure there's a name for this stitch, but I don't know what it is because, like I said, I'm not a master sewer. But you'll just continue to pull all the way through. And you can kind of see right here how I am just trying to grab as little bit of fabric as I can. And once you've gone all the way across, you want to make sure that you loop it and then put your needle through the loop to tie your knot. And as always, why not do another knot for a second measure? And you are basically done. Wow. Last final step is to go ahead and remove that string and any other loose threads you might have from your project. Look how adorable this bow tie is. Oh my gosh, your baby's gonna look so adorable in this. I just cannot tell me that's not the cutest thing ever. That's the cutest thing you've ever seen. The materials you will need are, I have my handy dandy list right here. Scratch paper for making the pattern, a pen or a pencil to draw or trace with, cardstock paper for the actual hat. You are gonna want a more heavy duty paper for the hat. You just need one if you're just making the hat. If you do wanna do a paper decal, you'll need 2 pieces. Measuring tape or ruler, elastic, 1/4 inch thick, at least 16 inches, a stapler, glue gun and glue for the glue gun. You're gonna need fabric. I'd say half a yard is plenty for just the hat. Scissors, yarn, or a pom-pom that's already made at the store for the top. The other option for the decal, instead of doing the paper, is to do a fabric one, in which case you would want to buy an additional fabric, probably not a matching fabric so that it would stand out. And if you do want to do that to make it look a little fancier, you are going to need additional fabric, and you will also need needle and matching thread to put the decal on there, and that will make sense in the video. Trim, which is also optional if you want to make it look a little cuter. You will start by making your pattern. So you're going to take a paper, 8.5 by 11 is fine. You're going to come over 4 inches from the top and make a mark. From the same corner, you're going to measure down 5.5 inches and also make another mark. So we have 4 inches, 5.5 on this side. Now we're gonna come over and make our curve. In order to help us do this, I'm gonna, like the good old math days, give you some coordinates of dots that you can make. So the first one is 2 inches by 2 inches, 2 from the left, 2 from the bottom. And then we're gonna keep the 2 inches from the bottom and come over to 6 inches. So you'd be 6 by 2 if you were doing X and Y. And then our next one is going to be 1.5 inches from the right side of the paper and 4 inches up from the bottom, which I almost got perfectly. So 4 and then 1.5 inches from that side. And as you can see, when you put another dot in the upper right corner, it forms a scoop, and we are going to connect these to make our pattern. See, that wasn't so bad. Pretty easy. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, if you want to get a protractor out, you can. Next, we're going to come down 1 centimeter from that mark we made at the top and take a straight edge. You can use your cardstock and connect that centimeter, like the bottom of the line where we drew the centimeter, to that dot right there. And a little U shape here at the top for the cone. And on the left side, we'll go ahead and draw a tab here, which if you're making a paper hat, you can insert right there. And so we have our pattern. Good job. Now I went ahead and corrected right here because it was a little uneven. So you can go back and make it as pretty as you want to your heart's content, so you do get that nice arc. And cut out your pattern. And now we are going to trace our pattern onto the cardstock. I really do recommend using cardstock as it's going to be more stable for a hat. If you are making a paper one, you do want to keep that little slit where you're going to insert. Since I'm doing a fabric one, I decided not to transfer it. So if you were doing a basic hat, that would be pretty much be it. You'd put it together, staple it or glue it. But we are not being basic today. We are making an adorable upscale fabric hat. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the fabric. You can do a very rough cut all the way around. As you can see, mine's not very perfect because we're just gonna fold the edges over anyway, so you won't even be able to see how uneven they are. Now we're gonna take our glue gun and go ahead and secure it around the edge. The one thing I will say is that you do want to make sure that it's pretty taut so that you don't have any wrinkles on the opposite side of the hat. So I took my time pressing it down, making sure that it was taut on all of the edges. I'm really spending some extra time securing these corners so that the fabric isn't gonna flap up. So as you can see, coming around here, it is gonna pucker. So just take some scissors and make some little cuts around the curved portion of the fabric, and then you can sew or glue them down in pieces. So then they glue down a little more put together. Now for this flap area, I come in here and I make a diagonal cut on either side of the flap. And then I make sure to really secure down all of these corners on this side as well. If you, I don't mind getting hot glue on my hands. If it bothers you, a tip that you can do is to use a pen to go ahead and secure it so that, I guess you're not getting hot glue on your hands and they're not getting all sticky. So I went ahead and showed you how to use a pen there instead of using your fingers, depending on how much it bothers you. Also, like the amount of glue, I think makes a difference. If you have more glue, you're gonna want the help with the pen. So there we go. Now we are going to use our flap to secure our cone shape. If you were doing a paper one, you would insert it into the slit and then secure it. This one, we don't need to insert it. So just along the edge, go ahead. I do the top half of the cone first to kind of give it some shape. And I hold it for a few seconds until the glue dries. And then I went ahead and secured the bottom portion and made sure that it lined up the way that I wanted, and patted it lightly and waited for the glue to set. If you need to do another layer, that will work too. So we have our hat shape. Now we are going to make our neck strap. So we're gonna measure 16 inches of elastic, 1/4 inch thick. And then we're gonna tie a knot on one end and another knot on the other end, leaving about 1 inch on each side. Then you will grab your stapler once you have found the spot. Staple one side of the hat, make sure it is secure. And then if you measure your kid's chin, you'll be able to do a more accurate measurement. I left some more space on that side because I have a baby. But you can do the full 16 inches for like a kid of about 7. So you could be done if you were doing a basic hat, but we are not doing a basic hat. We are doing an upscale birthday hat. So we're gonna go ahead and add some trim on the bottom, which is optional, but I highly recommend. I think it takes it up a whole level. So I went ahead and measured it, left a little extra so that I could glue it on, and then I just glued it every 3 or 4 little bumps. I guess they're called bumps. And then when we get to the end here, I'm just gonna trim right there to make sure that it looks even. Notice I put it on the side so it's not as noticeable where it begins and ends. The back would be another good option. And you could be done now, but we want to make it look even cuter. If you want to learn how to make your own yarn pom, go ahead and click in the link below. I'll also put a link right here. They're really easy to make and I think is the perfect touch to this. You can also just buy a pom at the craft store and use that as well. So I put the glue on the top of the hat and then secure it. Find the poofiest, prettiest part, push it on there. There's not really a technical term for that. And then I put more glue underneath to make sure that it is secure, and just squash it, squash it, squash it until it looks pretty. And you could even stop here and it's a cute hat, but we are gonna take it up one more level and create a number decal. So you can do paper or you can do fabric. And if you do the paper, I recommend using a hot glue gun. And if you do fabric, I recommend doing the needle. So you can make little loops here and it'll make it look very, very finished. And you can see you have stitches that will go all the way around the number, which is just a nice, cute little extra touch. With the paper though, I found it was too difficult. So 3rd time's a charm. And I just ended up gluing on the paper decal, making sure that it is centered and that all the edges are pressed down with the glue. And that, my friends, is how you make an upscale, beautiful birthday hat. Woohoo! You did it! The whole thing. I am so impressed with you. You're so good. That was a lot of work, but here you have this beautiful cake smash outfit that will look very beautiful on your cute little baby. And go ahead and comment below if you have any notes on sizing or any other notes based on the size of your baby versus the sizes in the videos. If you have any information to make this more helpful for other people, go ahead and comment. Like I said, there are links to other individual pieces if you just want to make a piece or two to put that little special touch. Thank you guys so much for making this outfit with me. It was really fun. I hope that you enjoy the process too and that you just feel so accomplished, because you should, because that was an endeavor and you overcame. If no one has told you yet today, you are doing a good job. Thank you guys. Mwah. I will see you next time on Mom Babes.